Sorry, I just have a German passport. Hopefully I can convince them and show them and prove them that I'm proud to be the English manager.
For only the third time in history, the FA have turned to a foreign manager to take charge of the men's England team. Thomas Tuchel follows in the footsteps of Sven-Göran Eriksson.
If we don't do results, of course, they will try to hang me, but even if I was an Englishman, they hang me. So that's...
And Fabio Capello.
A winner with a capital W. That was the template. This is the man.
When the news about Tuchel broke, there was a mixed media reaction. Some in Tuchel see a Champions League winning manager and the best candidate available if you want to win a World Cup. That's certainly how the FA bosses view it. But for others, there's a more fundamental principle here. They believe that an Englishman should be in charge of England.
Well, I was hoping we'd get an English manager, but when you look at the choices, there are very few, aren't they?
The jobs are so prestigious and there's so much money in the job that people are tempted to spread the net wide.
There's nothing in the water that stops it. It's all about opportunity. I think it's probably a little bit simplistic just to put it down to national borders.
On whichever side of the debate you fall, there is one fact which is indisputable. The pool of English coaches at the elite level of the game is pretty shallow. And the key question is, why?
What we are deemed as English coaches, we're responsible for.
Do you feel like to get a job in the Premier League as an Englishman, you have to be promoted to the division?
I would say 99 times out of 100.
You can't just give people jobs.
I want to try and help in any way that I can produce more English managers.
I'm at St George's Park. Opened in 2012, the FA intended this place to be a centre of excellence and a destination of choice for players, coaches, administrators and officials alike. Since then, the national team have reached 2 European Championship finals under an Englishman, Gareth Southgate. There's been international silverware for 6 youth teams, managed by 4 Englishmen, a Welshman and a man with dual English-Irish nationality in Lee Carsley. So why have the FA turned to the continent to replace an English manager who's been the most successful in the top job since Sir Alf Ramsey? Well, to answer that question, you have to look much deeper within the game. Before the birth of the Premier League, the English First Division was won predominantly by teams with British managers. 38 Englishmen, 10 Scotsmen and an Irishman in Bob Kyle. The Premier League was formed in 1992, and that date coincides with the last time an English manager was in charge of a team that won the top division. If I'd said to you back in 1992 that no English manager would win the top division for another 33 years and counting, you'd have been shocked, wouldn't you?
No, my first response would have been, don't be stupid, based on what I saw at the time. Don't be stupid. It's not sadness, it's just a lot of that sentimentality. But sometimes it does you good to be sentimental. My desire is, or would be, it's the England team, we need an England coach. But what I think of as ideal has to then be placed in perspective with regard to the reality. And the reality being, do we think there are people around who can take the England team to where we'd like it to be in terms of position? And if they decide that they don't think that's possible, I don't see that they can make any other decision. Football, as we all know, has changed. And I think that now, particularly with regard to football and the Premier League in this country's possibly become the new Hollywood. The Hollywood of the 40s, 50s. It's just the place to be. The Premier League is now global.
And does that mean there's a bigger pool of coaches worldwide that want to come here and that are available? And inevitably that means to fewer English coaches working at the top level?
Oh, absolutely. It's exactly the same as works in employment anywhere now. If you are good at your job and there's a place where you being good at your job earns you more money, then you will naturally, all things being equal, seek to be in that place.
Since Wilkinson, 2 Scottish managers have won the title, Sir Alex Ferguson 13 times and Sir Kenny Dalglish. Then you've got a 6-time winner from Spain, a 3-time winner from France, a 3-time winner from Portugal, 4 different managers from Italy, 1 from Chile, and 1 from Germany. There have been 0 from England. Just look at the contrast to Europe's other top 5 leagues. The current scene is stark. Only 2 of 20 Premier League managers are English. Newcastle's Eddie Howe and Graham Potter at West Ham. David Moyes is Scottish and Kieran McKenna Northern Irish, although he was born in London. The rest are foreign. 4 from Spain, including 3 from the Basque region, 4 from Portugal, 2 from the Netherlands. Also represented are Denmark, Germany, Italy, Austria, Croatia and Australia. For contrast, the only non-British manager working in the first Premier League season was Joe Kinnear from Ireland. So what do those currently working in the Premier League make of the situation?
I don't think it's surprising me, because I think that's been the case for some time in the Premier League. One of the beauties of the league that we're in, whether you're a player, a manager or a coach, is bringing the best people in the world into the league, into the country, which I think has raised the standard of football and coaching and the product that people see incredibly. And with that, I think there's always I wouldn't say a negative side, but there's always a consequence, and the consequence is that then, if you're bringing the best of the world in and you're opening up opportunities for everybody, then English, British managers will suffer in terms of jobs in the top league.
For me, I'm obviously proud and happy to be here, and it shows how difficult it is. There's only 20 opportunities, there's only 20 clubs, and you consider how many coaches there are in the world, you realise that competition is fierce. It's up to everybody to try and be the best that they can be and keep improving every day. It's a global market. I think anybody can work here, and I think that's good. So it means the standard and the level is so high. So it doesn't matter what your passport says. It means, are you good enough to do the job? Are you open to learning? Are you open to being better?
Bournemouth's footballing dreams come true.
For me, the lower leagues was such a great source of learning and experience, and I wouldn't change my journey for anything. I think we started 91st, so second bottom of the League Two, fighting relegation, but what a better learning experience for a young manager to go into, and it didn't feel that way at the time. I'm a firm believer of the lower leagues. For me, that system is so unique to English football. For me, the foundation of everything that's around the English game. And I love the fact that you can do what we did, where you go take a team from League Two to the Premier League.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have just seen the football playing, music making, love making, heart breaking, booty shaking, fist pumping, legendary O.F.Co.
Every pathway is different because of maybe my playing career, and when I finished, I went into university education pretty much and coaching in that way. So it was difficult for me to get back into professional coaching just because I was a university coach, and football doesn't really work like that. But my path was I focused on myself, focused on education, focused on trying to develop a method of work and try to make mistakes in a safe environment. I think that's all important. If you look at the numbers and how long first-time managers last, it's not positive, so you need to make sure you're ready. I suppose my journey allowed me to, at a certain time, to make those mistakes or to have those experiences. It is difficult. I mean, to get back into the UK, I had to go to Sweden, 7 years there, 3 promotions, a major trophy, a European run. So you have to do a lot. In any industry, you don't just start at the very top. You try to work your way up.
At the start of the season, there was slightly more British representation, with Russell Martin, English-born but a Scottish international, and there was also Wales's Steve Cooper, plus another 2 English managers, Sean Dyche at Everton and Gary O'Neill at Wolves. But all 4 of those have since lost their jobs, 3 of them to be replaced by foreign coaches. So just how hard is it to get that chance?
The opportunity came unbelievably early for me at a really high domestic level, and I'd never ever been a lead coach in any football match. I think I took 1 at Liverpool, an under-23s friendly. I was then given the opportunity to manage a Premier League team 36 hours before its next game. It was a whirlwind, was thrown in at the deep end. As fortunate as I was to get the opportunity, it was an opportunity that could have killed me also, in coaching terms, because it could have shown the whole world how not ready I was at the top level. But the work that I'd done and the position that I'd managed to get myself to from an understanding point of view allowed me to still find a way to be successful in that situation.
It's all over! The treble winners are beaten. Gary O'Neill's tactical master plan has worked to perfection.
We'd love to have loads of homegrown top players and top managers, but the nature of the league is that to play at the top of it, or to coach at the top of it, or to play in it and coach in it, you need to be really, really good, no matter where you're from. I think we have to take that responsibility ourselves of what we are deemed as English coaches, we're responsible for. You know, it'd be very easy to just sit here and say, oh, we don't get that job or that job because we don't have a fancy name. Or I can guarantee you that is nonsense. The guys that are in charge of top football clubs, they're intelligent and they want the best people for the job, and they will employ who they think is the best person for the job. So our responsibility then as English coaches is to be good enough, to be in the frame, to show people that you're good enough.
It's clear to see there's been a steady decline in English managers in the top flight, culminating in the current low of today. So the FA have very little choice if they want to give the top job to an English manager at the top of our game. It's certainly very different to when they first turned to the continent. 11 Englishmen managing in the Premier League when Eriksson was appointed, compared to just 3 when Tuchel was. And it's so hard to get a job at the top of the league as well. Only 4 English managers have achieved Champions League qualification since the start of the millennium. Sir Bobby Robson at Newcastle, Frank Lampard at Chelsea, Eddie Howe at Newcastle, and Harry Redknapp at Tottenham.
25 years, only 4 English managers. I mean, that's extraordinary, isn't it? What do you make of that?
Well, they've just not been given a chance to manage a team that's got a chance to get there, have they? That's the simple.
They're not getting the top job.
No, they're just getting jobs. You know, I would never have got it if I don't go to Tottenham and Portsmouth. You know, we won the cup and qualified for a European competition. But other than that, you've got no chance unless you've got one of the big clubs. You're not going to ever qualify, are you? You know, and when they do, you said when they get a job, English managers, it's never one of the big 6, if you like. It's always to clubs that would find it very difficult to get into a European competition.
What you did with Spurs was extraordinary, because when you took over from them, they were in the bottom 3.
Yeah.
And you took them to a Champions League place.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any conversations about the very big jobs, Harry? The Arsenals, the Man Uniteds, the Liverpools? Did you ever get close to any of those?
No, Tottenham. I could have gone to Newcastle. I actually accepted the Newcastle job at one time. Mike Ashley was there, and I agreed to go and then changed my mind, didn't take it in the end, but with a regret, because Newcastle was a fantastic club, you know, great support, big club. Even Tottenham, I went into Tottenham, OK, they were in the bottom 3, but they had good players. It wasn't like I went in and did something, to be honest. I went in there with a good group of players, just got them believing in themselves and playing, and you know, but I had some real quality players at that time, so that is the key.
Sam Allardyce, who's a mate of yours, you know him really well, famously said, didn't he, if my name was Sam Allardyce,
yeah,
I'd have got more top jobs.
It was a little tongue-in-cheek at the start, almost a throwaway comment, but I mean, the bottom line at the end of the day is that I have a desire to become a better manager. My credentials are as good as anybody else's in the game of football as a coach.
Is he making a fair point?
I think he's spot on, yeah. I think that's how it's gone, Rob, you know. Managing, it's become a changing game, Rob, changing job. You know, back in the day, you was a manager of a football club. You was the man. You chose every player. You chose your staff. You chose everything that happened to that football club went through you. You run that club. Nowadays, you're given the players. You've got no real input into who comes in. You don't even see them, if we're truthful about it. You know, most players that come in now, the manager would, you know, he'd maybe see some videos of them, watch a few clips. And that is the problem. You're now reliant completely, really, on sporting directors and their judgment of a player. Because it's all you do. We say they coach them. When do you even coach them? You don't get any time. So it's all you're doing, really, is picking the team, more or less. Keeping them happy, picking the team. Yeah, we're going to play like this, and this is the team. When are you actually working with them for hours? It don't happen. There used to be that progression. You had a chance back in the day. Win your stripes in the 2nd or 3rd division, and then you get the opportunity to move up the ladder, perhaps. You know, a big club will come in and give you that chance, but now it doesn't seem to happen anymore. You can't tell me that the Chris Wilders of this world couldn't go and manage at the top level. He knows the game, it's common sense. You know, you go all the way down the ladder. Ian Holloway walks in at Swindon. Suddenly Swindon turn around, go to the bottom of the league, then they're halfway up the league. Probably talking a bit of common sense, you know, basic. It's nothing. It ain't rocket science, you know, managing football clubs.
Redknapp's status as the last English manager to win a trophy, with Portsmouth in 2008, was taken by Eddie Howe this month. But the last League Cup winner before him was Steve McClaren in 2004. And whilst Sir Alex Ferguson won 2 European Cups, Joe Fagan in 1984 was the last English manager to lift club football's biggest prize. Sir Bobby Robson did win the Cup Winners' Cup, but that was back in 1997. We've seen English managers win leagues abroad. Steven Gerrard at Rangers and Steve McClaren with FC 20. And taking your chance abroad is how one former England manager's career started all those years ago.
It was much easier in the day when I went abroad, when, you know, countries like Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Finland, in that Scandinavian region, but even other countries to some extent, even Holland, you know, were interested in taking English coaches. To some extent that route has dried up a little bit, it seems to me. I don't know. I don't see many young coaches going abroad, and whether that's because they don't want to, whether it's because if they've got a good job in England, the clubs abroad can't offer them enough money to make it interesting for them. It's probably a plethora of reasons really why it's happening. All I know is that people like myself and Bob Houghton, when we went to Sweden in the early 70s, we were lucky that opportunity came our way.
It strikes me that it's changed an awful lot even in the last 10 or 15 years. It wasn't very long ago we had yourself, we had Sam Allardyce, Alan Pardew, Steve McClaren, Steve Bruce, Harry Redknapp, all of you competing amongst each other in the top division. And that was a decade and a half ago. It wasn't that long ago.
No.
So that seemed a heck of a change so quickly, doesn't it?
Well, you're talking about people pretty much the same sort of age as well, of course. You know, maybe that was a generation, wasn't it, you're talking of? You know, we were probably at quite an important part of our careers in that period, and after, with quite a long CV and a lot of clubs behind that we could refer to, which would suggest we can do this job. I mean, now, of course, you know, the focus is often on the younger coach, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that either. It's a young person's game, so I don't complain about that at all. But as a result, of course, when they're looking for a younger coach, these clubs, often they probably think they're going to find him abroad. The Premier League is becoming a force to itself. I mean, the amount of money, it reminds me of Italy when I was there, because Italy was a place where all the players were being attracted to and where the big money was. So there's been an enormous change. So that's where the Premier League is today. So any job that comes up in the Premier League, it's not going to be, well, here's a list of Englishmen who might be interested in the job or who might be candidates. You go out, well, who's at Bayern Munich at the moment? Who's at Barcelona? Who's at Real Madrid? Who's at PSG? Why don't we get one of those? Because you know that they can actually be attracted to the job, because the job is extremely well paid, and you're playing in a league which is, in most people's view, at least all English people's view, one of the best leagues in the world.
The Italian one is probably more tactical, defensive side. Spanish is more quality, more technique, and England is everything. It's physicality, it's strong, it's quality, it's all the best manager like Carlo Ancelotti, Pep, Klopp, the best manager in this moment in the world. They were all here in England. It's the toughest one for sure.
It is the league that everyone wants to be coach in. Pick one league, everyone will say, I want to coach in the Premier League if possible. It is extremely difficult. I think the level of coaching in the Premier League is insane from every team. If you look at the details and the tactical level, I think is extremely high.
If you look at the opposition every week that you're facing, the quality, it's huge. Also of the coaches and the managers, how they can tweak things within the game, and you have to react to it. Those levels are world class.
The Premier League has long been a home for elite managers from right across the world. But in terms of English managerial representation abroad, that's still very poor. Across Europe's top 5 leagues, there's only Will Still and Liam Rosenior currently in work. They're both in France.
And that means a real lack of experience for English managers at the top level. Just look at the number of games managed in the Champions League since 1992 across Europe. And not one of those coaches has managed over 5 knockout games in the competition. But is it all doom and gloom? Take a glance into our second tier. The picture changes. The Championship is a clear route for English managers aiming for Premier League jobs, but only through team success. In the last decade, of the 30 teams promoted, 9 had English bosses, another 4 had dual English heritage, with 1 Welshman and a Scotsman.
Sheffield United are going up, and the man who embodies this football club has taken them from the doldrums to English football's biggest stage.
Do you feel like to get a job in the Premier League as an Englishman, you have to be promoted to the division?
I would say 99 times out of 100. That's how I see it. Unless somebody absolutely excels in the Championship and somebody takes a punt on them, majority of the time, if not all the time, that's the case. I do think there's some tremendous talent right the way through the divisions. I've had that opportunity of managing in all 4 divisions, all 5 divisions really. It does shock me and disappoints me, but it doesn't surprise me. I think with the investment from abroad.
Promotion was demanded of this Fulham team. It's an incredible job that Scott Parker has done. Bournemouth have got everything they dreamed of. Scott Parker has done it.
History's probably telling you you probably need to fall into that position through an opportunity of being in the organisation that puts you into the position of interim, or you do well from there, or history's telling you that you need to come up via the Championship, because there's more opportunity in the Championship and more opportunity in the other leagues, really.
My pathway, I don't think you can sort of map out and plan really. It just takes you. And I think it's sometimes a little bit like snakes and ladders. You sort of climb and climb and climb, then you might have a bit of a plateau, then you might drop, and then you might go again. Maybe I'm opening myself up for a little bit of criticism here, but you know, you went into the Premier League and you know, you were looking and waiting, you know, looking to my left or looking to my right in terms of dugouts and technical areas, and waiting for something special to happen. Now, I remember one manager who's, you wouldn't believe, and I'm not going to name his name, he's an incredible manager, has won loads of things, and he was going first and second balls, play forward, run forward, you know, hook it, win your headers, win your tackles, win your races. And I'm going, am I back in the conference? That's a sort of just a little snapshot of sort of the experience that I've had.
Scott, congratulations. How do you sum up the emotions of being given a chance to manage?
One of excitement, appreciate the opportunity which the owners have given me here.
I think I probably had to earn the trust, but for sure it gave me that opportunity. And probably what gave me the opportunity was I was at the football club for 5 or 6 years as a player, and probably ownership and people making them decisions see traits or see behaviours in me which they felt comfortable with. No denying I fell into that position and was pretty fortunate really. I was pretty blessed that ownership at that time took the time to appoint me, which was a huge season for us. We'd just come out of a Premier League and been relegated, and there was huge demands on us going back up into the Premier League the following season. Now for a manager with very little experience other than a year at Tottenham under-18s as a coach, that took a lot of courage from ownership.
This season, Parker is one of 5 ex-England players from the so-called Golden Generation era to manage in the Championship, and they're letting their work do the talking.
Probably reality is there's just more noise around it. A top player creates more noise around it because of the career you've had. If you're a player that's played X amount of games for England and been a huge star in Premier League and won trophies, the profile around it is there's going to be more talk around it. Is that unfair? It's unfair in the sense of judging that instantly you think that these players should be executing or being incredible managers and adding that extra pressure. But again, mate, that's just the reality. And the reality is, if you want to go into management, whether you've got a profile, whether you're not, you come into management, you're going to be judged, and you're going to be judged on how well you do, how successful you are.
Tom Cleverley, another representative of the future of Manchester United.
Started getting my coaching badges when I was 32, 33, and then had the career-ending injury.
I was thrust straight into the under-18s. It's a real grounding for any young coach, and I'd certainly recommend it from someone who finishes playing and wants to be a first-team coach. Then I think academy football is a good place to learn your trade. I've needed a little bit of luck to get where I am, but I certainly put the work in those 8 months. I've got a lot to learn. I'm a much better coach now than I was in game 1, and I'll be a much better coach on game 100 than I am now, and so on and so on. So I've got a lot of more experienced managers that I can bounce things off, which helps me. But yeah, I'm learning all the time.
So how much fault lies with the FA? In truth, they can only do so much. There are 7 positions across the men's game that are within their power to control. That's the under-16s head coach right through to the top job, the manager of the men's senior team.
One man who came through the FA pathway was Ian Foster, winning an under-19s European Championship back in 2022.
Was that the best moment of your career?
It's the most fulfilling, I think, because you're really challenged at international level tactically. You get to learn how to beat a low block. You know, teams really respect England teams now, and will sit in and make it really, really difficult for you. And then you get the top nations who'll come and have a real good go at you. Who'll change tactically 2 or 3 times in the first half. So you have to have your wits about you. Every player come back with a winner's medal and felt they'd been a part of it, which is nice.
Special memories?
Definitely, no, yeah.
When you left this place, what was going through your mind? Why did you do it?
I wanted to be a number 1. I wanted to go into a club somewhere and be a head coach, you know, and get in there in pre-season and have a really good go at it. But when someone of Steven Gerrard's name comes calling, then you have to listen. It just took me to Saudi Arabia. That was certainly not the plan, but I enjoyed it. Again, it was really challenging. The Plymouth thing came completely out of the blue. It's what I've been planning for, you know, that opportunity. I had my eyes wide open. It wasn't the perfect club in terms of they were in the Championship, were they ready for it in terms of player personnel, perhaps not, but you back yourself, you know, you look at the project, you listen to the plans of the owner, you hope that the powers that be can see the work that you're doing, but it just changes in a blink. I went in the first week of January. At the end of January, you're nominated for manager of the month. At the end of March, you're out the door. That's hard. You know, it's hard emotionally. It's hard on your family, on your friends. You try and reflect on the whole process, on the decision making. You challenge yourself, and then the other things. Your phone stops ringing. You know, you go to the house phone and ring your mobile just to make sure it's working. I kind of fell out of love with it for a short time. Didn't want to watch it on TV. Didn't want to go to a game. Felt as miserable as sin. Beat myself up. You turn the corner and you get ready to go again.
Have you had offers since?
I have, but it's so important that I choose the right one. It's so important. If I get the next one wrong, then it's going to be a very, very difficult journey for me.
Why are there so few opportunities for English coaches right now?
I think we have to change the narrative slightly. I think there's a view, perhaps, that English coaches don't have a certain style, if you like. I think if you go and watch games in Germany or the Netherlands or France, I think you're likely to go and see the same type of game across the entire division. But you come to England and there's such a variety of tactics, and therefore you get perhaps English coaches, what is the style, what are they trying to do? Where English coaches are good is adjusting and adapting to the variety that you see in the Premier League and in the Championship. Do we have to go to France and Spain and Portugal and countries like that to show that we can play football, that we can tactically set the team up, that we can be as good as the foreign coaches that are coming into this country are? You look at a lot of young English players, you see the players now actually manoeuvre. I'll go overseas, I'll go abroad, and perhaps as a coach we have to look at that and widen the scope.
What about those who are appointing the managers? A theme which tends to come up at this point in the conversation is that of foreign club ownership in the Premier League.
In the very first Premier League season, 21 of the 22 clubs were English-owned, the exception being Wimbledon, owned by Sam Haman. He was born in Lebanon but moved to England in 1975. The picture is so different now. 16 of the clubs have majority foreign owners, with American involvement in 10 of those. 2 of those clubs are run by English minority stakeholders, Steve Parish at Crystal Palace and Sir Jim Ratcliffe at Manchester United. That means only 4 clubs have majority UK owners, Brentford, Brighton, Tottenham and West Ham. So how much does that affect managerial appointments?
I've been a sporting director now over 10 years. There's been times where perhaps an opinion's been that foreign coaches are more adaptable, can go and do play different ways, which I haven't always agreed on, didn't always think is true, but that's people's opinion. And obviously, if we're just looking in Britain, if you are going outside of Britain, there's a lot more people, a lot more coaches available to choose from. The more and more foreign players that we have in our leagues now, perhaps that sways people's decision to go and get a foreign coach that can speak 2 or 3 languages. I don't think any club out there that's going to make an appointment doesn't look at an English or British coach and think that they can't succeed. Foreign ownership, that's very popular now in England, and I think that tends to naturally lead to more foreign coaches coming over. Does that mean that they are better than the British or English coaches? I don't think it does. Naturally, some of them will be.
Obviously, every first job for a manager needs someone to take a bit of a chance on them. Do you feel that responsibility ever to be a sort of pioneer of bringing these young coaches, especially English ones, through?
If we look now in the Premier League, Kieran McKenna's probably one of the youngest, and obviously Ipswich took a chance on him. When I say a chance, it being his first job, and you never know how it's going to go. And obviously Mark Ashton that made that decision. I think if you look back in his roles as CEO at different clubs, I think he's got a bit of history doing that. I think when Mark was at Watford, similar with Brendan Rodgers, Sean Dyche, I believe as well. So yes, there are decision makers out there that doesn't scare them. We tend to look at British coaches more when teams are struggling. I've experienced it. That's when clubs, I think, just solely look at British managers in general. There's the odd club, obviously, that doesn't. Southampton haven't this year. But you tend to look at British managers because you know that they can come in and they can hit the ground running as quickly as possible in terms of they have an idea on the squads. They know the league. They know what it's like to go and play at different grounds and things like that. So I think we need to try and get away from that because those coaches particularly are better than that as well. You can't put a gun to people's head and tell them what they've got to do because you're an owner of a club. They can appoint who they want. I know with the FA, we stipulate what we want them to do with academy players and try and push academy players through to the first team naturally. And I just wonder now if there's something that we can do, especially in the Premier League, whoever you appoint, whether it's British or someone from overseas, that there has to be a British coach on their staff. If Ruben Amorim comes in at Manchester United, as he has done, and brought 3, 4, 5 staff, no problem. But one of the rules are you've got to have a British coach within that coaching setup. I think it certainly would help coaches. It's just whether off the back of that, those coaches then go and get the opportunity we want them to.
Dowling's idea about coaches is an interesting one. 42% of Premier League first-team coaches across the last 6 seasons have been English. 56% have been British. The Premier League are also committed to coach development, launching an elite coaching plan in 2020 with a clear philosophy: better coaches lead to better players. Through that, they've supported 480 coaches and coach developers over the last 5 years. Alongside that, there's the Professional Coaching Partnership, bringing together the Premier League, FA, EFL, League Managers Association and others to offer further support for coaches. The League Managers Association, which represents managers in our top 4 divisions, told us they run a significant number of qualifications and personal development services for English coaches, all of which are oversubscribed, they say. But they admit that the football industry in this country is competitive, volatile and short-term. They say increased foreign ownership of English clubs and the purchasing power of English football mean clubs can scour the globe, and that has narrowed opportunities for home-developed coaches. The LMA say that whilst all the football authorities are committed to improving the situation, it's the clubs who need to do more. They need to recognise the rich seam of talent they have on their doorstep and provide environments that allow domestic coaching to develop and flourish. One of the long-standing complaints by aspiring coaches in this country surrounds the FA courses. Too expensive, not enough places, too much prevalence given to former players. So what exactly are the qualifications that you need? Beginners start on the Introduction to Coaching Football. Around 28,000 people do this a year at a cost of £100. Next is the UEFA C licence. Between 5,500 and 6,000 places are available. That one costs £650. 750 places are available on the UEFA B licence. This costs £1,200. You can manage in League One and League Two with this qualification. The UEFA A licence costs climb to £4,000. 120 places are available on that course, and Championship managers require that particular badge. And the highest qualification is the UEFA Pro licence. You need that to manage in the Premier League. UEFA set the number of places available at just 24 a season. It costs £13,700 to do. That's a huge financial outlay for coaches, and the FA Pro licence course is twice the price compared with Spain and Italy, but it's significantly cheaper than courses in Germany, France and the Netherlands. When places are awarded on each course every season, it causes significant debate on social media. Simon Goody has his A licence, but he had to go to Spain to get his badge, and having coached Fernando Torres' son at Atletico Madrid, he now works as head coach of SD Compostella's under-19s team.
Spain for me really was something that I saw as an opportunity for me to progress with my coaching badges. I kind of got a bit stuck here in England. I'd done my B licence when I was 19. I'd applied a couple of times here in England. I'd applied in Wales, I'd applied in Scotland, and unfortunately never managed to get my A licence. I really love the Spanish methodology, love the way that Spain have had so much success, not only from youth perspective but also senior perspective, and Spain kind of called out and I wanted to take a bit of a risk and a jump.
No! Dale! Vamos, Alex! Vamos!
How would you compare it to the process that you were trying to get through with the FA?
It was a lot easier, if I'm honest. Obviously, there was a number of challenges to that. I had to learn Spanish. I had to do a Spanish exam to be able to enrol on the course. In the years that I applied, there were normally about 3 cohorts of about 30 students. And as I understand it, speaking to different people, there were in between 700 and 800 applicants here in England for the A licence. So spending now 5 years abroad in Spain, I would definitely recommend that if you're a young coach trying to come through, that working abroad is a really great avenue to consider.
What more would you like to see the FA do in this country for young coaches to help them progress through the game?
Unfortunately, because of Brexit, it's now harder for coaches to get abroad. I think it would be great if the FA could try and find ways to create pathways in which coaches go and spend a year with a club in this country and do like a little bit of an internship. One option would be for the FA to really look to try to grow that and put on regional A licences, which we have in Spain. It makes it a little bit more financially accessible for coaches. The A licence is already very expensive. If they're regional, it makes it a little bit easier for coaches in Dorset, in Suffolk, in wherever it is, because coaches wouldn't need to pay for accommodation. I see a lot on social media of coaches who fall out of love of the game because they can't progress. There's not going to be pathways for everybody here in England, and I think people need to try and be a bit more willing to take a jump.
I think where we deliver our courses centrally, particularly in the professional game, I think it helps us enhance standards across coaching. If another nation was delivering it in a different way, I think that may suit their system and their culture and sort of the regulations that they're run by. By us having one central place where we deliver our elite coach education really drives that importance of standards, I think, within coaching.
I want to take you back to what Mark Bullingham said to me. It's our job to coach the coaches, we can't give them jobs.
It's a great point. Our role is to try to prepare those coaches for a long career in the game, wherever that may be. Give them the necessary skills, the experience of what it's going to be like when they get into those positions to help them navigate a career and make the very best choices. Coaching at the very top end is a pretty volatile career. If you want it to be a long career, there are going to be various points where it's not that linear.
There have been various criticisms, as you might expect. First one is FA courses are too expensive.
Our prices are pretty competitive and cheaper in many instances, and you could never compare one course with another because how it's delivered might be completely different.
Anecdotally, a lot of people have said to us it's difficult to get on the A licence, never mind the Pro licence.
The A licence is a very good coaching qualification. It's a real driver within the professional game. With that, our priority sits within the professional game. It is quite challenging for individuals from outside of professional game to get onto the A licence. We're really proud of the work that we're doing within the A licence space, and we're also committed to providing more opportunity for those coaches that do have ambitions to progress into the professional game.
Next criticism, too many places are offered to ex-players.
We'll always be in a position where there are a number of ex-players that do come through to their coaching qualifications, whether that's A licence, pro licence. They've probably made some commitment to coach at a certain point within their career. So I think the number of ex-players will probably always outweigh those that are non-players. I think we're comfortable with that. I think the important thing is that we really need to keep working about how we educate individuals that playing is not coaching. So it's our job to help those players.
A German coach has taken charge of the men's national team. People will ask, well, OK, why have you got foreign coaches on the pro licence here at the English FA?
When you look at the courses that we deliver, they're twofold. So we're giving homegrown coaches the very best opportunity that we can to achieve their ambitions within the game. The second part is really serving the game. So if we've got coaches from abroad that have worked through our system, it's our duty to then provide them with education and development at the same time. The flip side to that is the experience that different individuals bring to any learning environment. We've got a rich history in coach development. The work's pretty extensive. We've got traditional coach education programs. We're also doing extensive work around more bespoke programs to help coaches with specific facets of the game, whether that's from a high performance setting or whether we're trying to increase diversity among coaches.
Clements oversees all of the professional coaching courses here at St George's Park and the next generation of elite coaches who are working right now to gain their licences.
It's been good for me to develop my learning skills. Obviously it's the route that I want to go down, and networking in amongst some really high profile people, it's been an enjoyable experience so far.
Sparks different patterns of thought. You approach it with an open mind and take on little bits, and maybe some little triggers for new ideas can arise.
You've had such a successful career as a player. Why on earth do you want to be a manager?
Just the love for the game. The way the career ended, I really had a passion to go into the coaching side. I watch the game very differently now. I watch young British managers and how they set their teams up and how they develop players, and it's something that I really want to do.
You have to back yourself. I think hopefully I'll be good at it. As a player, it was always quite natural for me to lead. A lot of the daily requirements of a manager I felt quite natural.
If I'm honest, I want to exceed what I did as a player. I didn't quite probably achieve all of the things that I wanted to, so I want to win trophies at the highest level, and that's what I will go for.
How does Howe compare with Iriola?
Both extraordinary. The thing you have to compare is the similarities underneath the way they produce their model are the same principles, the same morals, if you like. They want their team to look very similar. They consider the supporters in that an exciting, fast, high-tempo football, but the way they get there is very, very different. I've learnt so much, so very fortunate.
Does it worry you, the lack of opportunity for English coaches at the moment?
The game's changing. I think the state of British coaches are changing. I do think that there was a space where British coaches as a whole needed to upscale. We are doing that. You will start to see that increase and the more maybe trust from foreign owners, where their go-to has been foreign managers.
The coaches do leverage themselves better by going outside of the UK. You look at Graham Potter, for example, and maybe they've got a better experience, a better understanding of different cultures.
Something you'd think of doing yourself then, possibly going and coaching abroad?
Yeah, I mean, if it's the right fit and it's right for my family, then I'm open to anything to further my education.
What's clear is that there's no easy way to increase the number of English coaches working at the elite level of the domestic game. But with the Premier League the epitome of a global business and sporting competition, it's questionable whether that is possible or even necessary. But the international game is inherently different. That is the best of one nation against the best of another. And with an elite German coach poised to take charge of England, that debate about the lack of opportunity for English coaches is sure to rage on.
I have to be very careful in my position to start talking about foreign coaches, because I coach 4 national teams as someone who wasn't a national of the country, so it would be incredibly hypocritical if I was to now suggest that every country must not turn outside of its own ranks to get a new coach. But what you always hope for is that there's going to be a lot of diligence before a decision's made.
It's sad, because could you see an Englishman going to manage Germany? I doubt it very much. In Italy or Spain, or managing the national team. So it is a disappointment.
You can't just give people jobs, and while I understand there's a nostalgia attached to that, and of course I would want to sit in this position as an Englishman with an English manager at the helm of our English team. What I do know is I know Thomas pretty well, and I know that he is an absolute outstanding coach. This is not someone that's took a position that isn't incredible at what they do, and I think his CV represents that.
We all go on the coaching courses, we all do our pro licenses, C licence, B licence, A licence, pro licence. I don't think it gives a good message at all. I would have put a lot of faith in an English manager to do the job, and I believe that, you know, there would have been one out there that could have done it.
I think it's probably a little bit simplistic just to put it down to national borders. There'll be differences within English coaches, there'll be difference within Spanish coaches. Of course, I'm English, but it doesn't mean to say that the next English coach, we might be really different, and I might have a bit more in common with the Spanish coach or the Swedish coach or the German coach. I think it's about who you are as a person, and then of course everybody's influenced by all their culture and all their surroundings, and we're all trying to learn and we're all trying to get better.
I think it starts right at the bottom. I think it starts with the coaching courses and the foundations you put in place to try and educate the coaches, giving them opportunities to learn, grow and develop. Ultimately, the responsibility does lie with the individual. You've got to commit to the process of learning and educating yourself and developing yourself to be the best that you can be every single day. You've got to ride the rough, low moments for long-term success.